Hey everyone, this is Brian from ActiveMelody.com. Well, I know a lot of you like these no accompaniment guitar lessons, so this is another one of those. This is an original blues composition that's played in the key of G, and it's not your traditional 12-bar blues. I wanted to break out of that. It's more of a Bessie Smith style chord arrangement. And so anyway, we're going to break all of this down over two videos. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the first half. If you'd like to watch the second half, as well as download the tablature and have access to the on-screen tab viewer, you're going to want to go to ActiveMelody.com and look for EP121. That's a lesson number for this lesson. So let's go ahead and start with part one. Alright, so there's no need to talk through tone settings for this week's lesson because all you need is an acoustic guitar or an electric if you don't have an acoustic, and a pick, and that's it. Now if you're not a pick player, if you're a fingerstyle player, that's okay. You can do this fingerstyle as well. But I'm going to be showing you in this lesson how to do this with a pick. So I'm going to assume that that's how you want to learn it anyway. So the first thing that happens in this is this little intro that goes like this. And that's sort of just defining it's sort of defining it for the listener's ear, what's about to happen. It's almost a predictable sounding intro. And I refer back to that intro between the verses, so we'll play it a few times throughout this. So once you learn it once, you can have it and reuse it. And this is something that you can apply to other things that you're doing too. So you're not limited to just playing it in the key of G. You can very easily transpose this and play this in other keys if you ever want a quick little fun Bessie Smith style turnaround. So the way that I start this is with a G chord like this. Now the way that I'm making the G chord, I know a lot of you know how to make a G like this, down in first position with some open strings. When we're playing this style of kind of a shuffle, I like to eliminate the open strings. And so what I'm doing is I'm playing, a lot of you learn how to make an F down in first position like this. I'm using that same chord shape but playing it here. Now some of you may want to make a full bar. If you're used to making a bar chord, you can just bar the 3rd fret with your pointer finger, and then your middle finger goes down on the 4th fret 3rd string, your pinky goes down on the 5th fret 4th string, and your ring finger goes down on the 5th fret 5th string. So it's really the E chord shape. You're thinking of the E chord shape, but you're now capoing it, if you will, with your index finger. Now the way that I do it is I play it like this, and I only play strings 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now the reason I do it that way is that's just how I learned it. It's probably more correct if I were to wrap my thumb around and grab that 6th string or do the bar, but it's just easier. I played a lot of electric guitar, and when you're standing up, that's an easier, more comfortable way to grab a chord for me. And I found that you don't need that bass string, that low 6th string, usually if you're playing with a band or even playing acoustic like this, because usually there's somebody else covering that if you have a bass player, or people won't hear it anyway. So that's just my own philosophy, so do what you want with it, but that's how I'm making the chord. So we're starting with that G chord, and by the way, you can take that same chord and use it anywhere on the neck to get a different chord shape. It's just the same as doing a major bar chord. Okay, so there's your G chord, then we go to the C. Now I go to the C down in first position like this. That's just your standard C chord. I'm going to assume you know how to make the C chord. The only difference is I'm putting my pinky down on the 3rd fret 1st string to play that G note there. So you're playing that G note, that high G note in the C chord. And what that ends up doing, if you look at this chord, there's that note. If you look at this chord, there's that same note. So you've got a common note between those two chords. Now we're going to go to a C sharp diminished 7th chord with an E in the bass, or it's an E diminished 7th, however you want to think of it. But this is the next chord. These diminished chords you can tell they're transitional. You can tell it's about to take you somewhere else. And so the way that you're going to make this chord is from the C, you're going to leave your pinky down on the 3rd fret 1st string, take your fingers off, the other 3 fingers off the fretboard, and you're going to put your middle finger down on the 2nd fret 2nd string, your ring finger goes down on the 3rd fret 3rd string, and your pointer finger goes down on the 2nd fret 4th string. So you can see what you've created is a little box here, where these 2 fingers are there, and then these 2 fingers are there. And that's a common, once you learn this chord shape, you'll use it a lot. It's just a very common, and you can use it on different sets of strings. In fact, that's how we're going to end the song, is using that. Now it's a different chord, but it's the same little shape. So you'll see that shape play out a lot. Okay, so if we back up, oh, the other thing to point out with this chord is, if you'll notice the pinky stays down again, so we have another common note that's shared. Now this G note is being shared between 3 chords. So we have that chord, that chord, that chord. And now we're going to go back to the G. So now if we back up and play everything up to this point, we have... And that's the timing of it. The right hand is just doing a kind of a lazy shuffle. It's down, up, down, 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 and then another down. And now watch this. Now we're going to go to a D 7th chord for this. And the way that I'm making this chord is, the way that I think of it is, a lot of you know how to make a C chord in first position. I'm sure most of you do it by now. And if you know how to make a C 7th chord, you just add your pinky here. When you're playing it in the C, it would be the 3rd fret, 3rd fret 3rd string. It's a C 7th. Well, you take that chord shape and you slide it up 2 frets. That's a D 7th chord. And so the only reason I mention the C is it's an easier way to visualize how to come to this chord. And you'll use this chord all the time if you're playing blues. The nice thing about this chord is I always think of these chords as being slidable. So you can slide from below to it, or you can slide from above. A lot of times you'll hear a song end that way, where it'll go... Well, it depends on the key you're in. Obviously, if we were playing the key of C, that would make more sense. But anyway, that's the chord. It's a D 7th chord. So once we make the chord, we go... So we play it, and then we slide down, and then... we play it, then we play it another downstroke here, and then slide it back up without plucking it, or picking it, strumming it. So here we go. Just like that. Let me do it again. So it's... down, down, slide, up, down. And then we're in position to start the verse. So let me back up and we'll play through this intro part again. So here we go from the G chord. Now we're ready to start. Now at this point, what I do is I play this. This is this style that I like to do, and I know a lot of you like it as well, where we're going to be playing chords, but we're also going to be playing some lead parts in between those chords. So the chords are defining the music, and then the lead parts are kind of like your melody, if you will. So if we start from the G chord, it goes... And really, that's fairly easy to do because we're just playing that G chord again, one downstroke to define the chord. And then watch this. We're going to keep these 2 fingers, which were already barred, the first 2 strings there on the 3rd fret. So that's 1 and 2 string numbers. Then we're going to come down and play the 5th fret 3rd string. And then we're going to do a hammer-on between the 3rd fret and the 4th fret on the 3rd string like this. So watch this. And then the last note, we're going to take our ring finger and come down to the 5th fret 4th string. So when we put them all together, we have... Now, I know some of you are probably confused as to where this is. How did these notes come about? Why did they work? How did I choose those notes? Well, that's because we're playing a G chord. The song is in the key of G. And what I'm doing is I'm noodling around, and it's somewhere between the major and the minor pentatonic scale. But when you think of the G chord, the 3rd fret is your root fret, meaning if you were to play pattern 1. And all of this is explained, by the way, in the blues lead course at Active Melody. If you don't have access to that, you can gain it by becoming a premium member. But the 3rd fret is your root fret, so that's pattern 1 of the minor pentatonic scale. So when we play those 2 notes are right out of the minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1. Then that's also in the minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1. But when we do this, do that hammer-on, you're going to the major scale, or the major pentatonic scale, however you want to look at it. And the reason that's the major is, remember, the major pentatonic scale is the exact same fretting as the minor pentatonic scale, but you go down 1, 2, 3 frets. So now the major pentatonic scale for the key of G looks like this. right? And so that means that's pattern 1 now for the major pentatonic scale, key of G. So pattern 2 would be here. So see that note right there? That's when we're hammering on, that's why that note works. It's part of the major. So we're kind of staggering between the minor and the major, but that's why this lick, that's where it comes from. And you're really just building the chord if you look at what you're doing. Okay, so now the next thing that happens is this. I love that. And what you're playing, the chord is a B 7th chord. So the way that we're going to make that chord is middle finger goes down on the 2nd fret 5th string, pointer finger goes down on the 1st fret 4th string, ring finger goes down on the 2nd fret 4th string, 2nd fret 3rd string, and then our pinky goes down on the 1st string on the 2nd fret. So there's that open B string that's ringing out in there as well. So that's a B 7th chord. It's one way to make one. So when we have, there's your G chord. Now we come to the B. Watch this. First we start by strumming the chord. So you define it for the listener. And then watch this. So we're going to add just a few little extra notes in there to kind of hint at a lead part. So we're going to play the chord first, then we're going to do an upstroke by playing the 1st string and taking our pinky off of that chord. So it's the open 1 string. Now our pinky goes down on the 3rd fret 2nd string, and then it comes off again. So let's try that. We have, and then the last thing I do is I just match that note, which is a B note, the open 2nd string, by sliding my ring finger, which is already here on the 2nd fret 3rd string. I slide it up to the 4th fret on the 3rd string. So when we put it all together, it goes like this. Oh, that's the other thing is when I play it with my pinky there on the 3rd fret 2nd string, you can hear I'm pushing it slightly sharp. And that's just to give it more of a bluesy feel. And then we slide into that note. Okay? Now, if you're wondering where this is, where those notes are coming from, what scale rather, that's really just for the key of, or sorry, the whole song is in the key of G, but for the chord of B, we're switching now to the B scale. And now I know a lot of you realize that you don't have to switch chords every time that, you don't have to switch scales every time you switch chords. But when you're playing this style, where there's all these chords, kind of a ragtime style, it really does make more sense to switch the scale to match the chord if you can. You don't have to, but it makes more sense because the chords are all over the place, so it helps define the song better, especially if you're playing no accompaniment like this. So, that said, what we're playing in when we go play that's pattern 3 of the minor pentatonic scale for the key of B, since we're playing over the B chord. So your B chord would be up here if you were to bar it, and your pattern 1 would be here. Pattern 2 would be here. And pattern 3 would be up here. So see, that's pattern 3. That was it, just an octave higher. So that's where we're at, and that's why that works. And why did I choose pattern 3? There's no logic to that. It was just, it happened to be that I could make some lead stuff down here without, because you're strumming the chord, so you gotta have, you don't have time to come up here and do anything. So I just did what I could in the general area. That's that's the science behind it. Okay, let's back up. So we have the G, we have the B 7th. Now we're going to come to the C chord and watch this. Now that's a great little lick that you can use all the time. It works in kind of a country style. It works in blues. But I'm just taking the C chord, playing a downstroke on the C chord, then I'm going like this. So that's a hammer on. So right out of that C chord, we're going to hammer on with our middle finger, which is on the 2nd fret, 4th string rather. We're going to take our finger off and play the open 4th string. Then we're going to hammer it on back to where it was in the C chord. So we have the C chord. We're going to play that, and then we're going to play that, which is the open G string, or the open 3rd string. So let's try that. So now we're going to take this middle finger, and we're going to come up here, and we're going to do another hammer on, but this time on the 3rd string on the 2nd fret, like this. In fact, you can hear that I'm actually, when I'm doing the downstroke and picking that, I'm playing strings, I'm bumping the 2nd string as well, and it kind of harmonizes with it because I'm holding this finger down from the C chord. So we have, and then we're going to go back and we're going to hammer on those that same note again, which is the 2nd fret, 4th string. And then when I hammered that on, I played strings 4 and 3 so that the two notes can harmonize with each other. Now, I was taking my fingers off to demonstrate it, but if you notice when I play this, it's really, I'm just playing the C chord and I'm moving my middle finger. That's the easiest way to do this. So keep your pointer finger and keep your ring finger down in place. Keep them locked. And that's a great little kind of a sidebar when you're playing a C chord. You can do all these little melodies right inside that chord just by moving your middle finger. Now here's another little trick, as this is a digression slightly, but you can take your pinky then and you can add your pinky down on the 3rd fret, 4th string. So now you have most of that major scale out of the C chord, all right there in a very convenient little box. And so that makes it easy if you're wanting to play something like the Wildwood Flower. That's how they do that. It's right out of that C chord. They're just picking the melody out of the chord. All right, so we have now we're going to go to that C sharp diminished chord again, or the C sharp diminished with an E in the bass. It's also known as an E diminished 7. So when we play this chord, now I already showed you how to play the chord, so I'm not going to show you that again. That was that same chord from the intro. But watch, here's how we're going to play the melody out of it. So we're going to do a downstroke on strings 4, 3, 2, and 1. Play the chord, then we're going to go. So all I did was take my pinky off the 3rd fret, 1st string, keeping the chord, keeping the rest of the chord down, and play string 2 and then string 3. Very easy. Isn't that cool sounding? So if we put it all together now, we have. Okay. Now we're going to get to this long, crazy little turnaround thing that you think of a piano player doing, and it's really fun to do because the chord shapes are the same. You'll see a lot of repetition here, and you'll find that it's not that difficult. But we're going to go back to the G chord, and there's two ways you can strum it. You can go down, up, down, or you can just go down, down, whatever's easiest. Down, up, down. Now I'm going to come up here and play the E9 chord. Now here's how I'm playing this chord. This is a must-know if you don't know how to make a 9 chord in this shape. But I've got my middle finger down on the 7th fret, 5th string. My ring finger is also on the 7th fret, but it's on the 3rd string. My pointer finger is down on the 6th fret, 4th string. So the little shape we just made there, it's the same shape as a D7th chord. If you know how to make that in first position. Same shape here, but we're on the 5th string here, 7th fret. Now we got that, we take our pinky and we just go ahead and bar strings 1 and 2 on the 7th fret. And even though that seems like it would be difficult to bar with your pinky, it's really pretty natural feeling. It's actually a pretty easy chord to grab. And I don't have fingers that are double jointed or any of that stuff. You know, some people can make chords a lot easier than others. And so anyway, what I'm trying to say is, if I can do it, you can do it. But that's how I'm doing it. Now, a shortcut version of that chord if this is too painful, is just to do this. And that's how a lot of funk guys do it. They'll just bar the first 3 strings there. That's what's happening if you look at it. You're doing that anyway, but you're adding these 2 extra notes by having your middle finger and your index finger. So if that's too difficult and you want to play this and keep it up, keep it going, you can do it like that. But I would recommend learning the full chord because it gives you a little more, especially if you're playing no accompaniment. Now if you had a bass player that was playing behind you, you could get away with that one a lot better. But I think without it, playing the full 9 chord makes more sense. Okay, so back to that turnaround part. So we have the G, we have the E9. Now we're going to play the A. Now the A, the way I'm playing it is exactly the same as when we played this G chord. Same concept. I'm barring the first 2 strings. However, this time I'm on the 5th fret when I bar those. Middle finger goes down on the 6th fret, 3rd string. And then my ring finger goes down. Now this is the difference because I want my pinky free to do this little melody. So I just put my ring finger down on the 7th fret, 4th string. And that's how I make the chord, just those 4 strings. Now, if I happen to bump the low 5th string, well, that's an A note too, so that gives you the bass end of it. So you can play it with all 5, or you can just play these 4, whatever's easiest for you. So there's the A chord. Now watch this. Then I take my pinky, it comes down, it fits so perfectly there on the 7th fret, 1st string. So I do an upstroke with my strumming by adding my pinky, then I take my pinky off, strum it again, so it goes like this. So back from the G we have, here's the E9, the A. Now we're going to do a D9. It's the exact same chord shape as the E9. The only difference is down here on the 5th fret, so that you're cramming everything into the 5th fret. Or you can bar the first 3 strings on the 5th fret if that's easier. So and then we resolve it back on the G. Okay, and now one final little piece to get us back to verse 2 is we just play that intro part again, go, which you already know, we covered that in the beginning of this. So let me back up and I'll play through the whole thing, and that will give you all the parts. I'll play through it slowly so that you have this as a reference, but that'll give you all the parts for this first half of the song. So here we go. And that's the first time through. Now the second time through, I did the same structure, but I've added a different lead part. And we'll go into that, we'll get into all of that in the second video. There's also a bridge part that goes. So there's a lot of different musical elements to this, and once you learn all the parts and you find that they're not that difficult to do, this is a great little thing to have. If anybody ever asks you to play something on the guitar and you don't feel like singing a song, which that can be embarrassing to a lot of us, this is an awesome little thing to be able to play. So alright, that's what we have in part 1. I'll see you in part 2.